Ai ngā mana, i ngā reo, i ngā hau e whā, a tēnā koutou, o kia ora mai tātou katoa. E Mari Kompuche, e ngā mihi tino mahana ki a koutou katoa me ki a tātou katoa. E nau mai haere mai ki konei, ki te herenga o waka, ai rako Victoria University of Wellington. E ngā mihi tino mahana ki a koe ki te rangatira rongonui ki a koe Elisa, e me ki Belen, Manahi, Las Queridas, e me ki a koutou katoa. Ahakoa no hea, ahakoa no hea. Really warm greetings everyone tonight. Really interesting seating arrangements. We got some fine choices on the right. Not quite sure what happened to the left, but yeah, great to see all of you up there and everyone here tonight. It's a really lovely, proud moment for us to be welcoming you here for this very special event with Dr. Elisa Loncon from Chile, Mapuche. So I said Mari Kompuche, but Mari Lamien to you. But to all of us, we do have many special guests here tonight, but we're all, each and every one of us, special in every way. And I guess the title Plurinationality, it's a great representation of that as well, to say what all the beliefs and who we are and what we think and how we do things. So thanks so much for coming to this really important event. I'm Craig Nicholson. I'm the Deputy Director of the Latin America Cape. It is a proud moment, and on behalf of Professor Rawinia Higgins up here, who's our Deputy Vice-Chancellor Māori and Engagement, and Professor Margaret Hyland, who's our Deputy Vice-Chancellor Research, and Dr. Matthew Amar, I'll take a deep breath, Latin America Centre of Asia Pacific Excellence, a wonderful host, and all of our team that's putting this on tonight. Once again, many warm welcome to you all. Now, tonight, what's exciting is that we do have such a mix of all of us here, whether we're students, academics, politicians, whatever we call ourselves, but for this really important topic, plurinationality in Chile and the new constitution. So, I hope you're feeling all settled and ready to go. One really important concept for tonight in Mapuche culture is called Nuchan, which is about dialogue. And dialogue sometimes when there's conflict, when we have issues, and so very much about listening, about knowledge and so on, but also about that ability to come together. I think with Elisa here, and it's been wonderful few days together with Elisa, and I know thank you so much to members of the Chilean community, Maribel, and others who have been hosting Elisa as well as part of coming to Aotearoa for the second time for Elisa, but also as part of this dialogue about who we are and also about really important issues like plurinationality and the Constitution.
Mari Kompuche, buenas noches. Tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa. E ngā manihira matararahi, e ngā hoa mahi, e ngā tuira, e ngā kai tōtoko me ngā hoa. No mai, haere mai, ki te herenga waka. So welcome to our distinguished guests, the ambassadors of Chile and Argentina, and the High Commissioner for the Solomon Islands and Aotearoa, New Zealand. Welcome to my university colleagues, to our students, to our supporters, to the friends of the university. My name is Margaret Hyland, and I'm Deputy Vice-Chancellor Research at Te Herenga Waka. I met Professor Loncon for the first time about 3 months ago at a function at the New Zealand Embassy in Santiago. And although our conversation was short, it was clear to me that we in Aotearoa had a lot to learn from her, and that we shared common goals and I think common values. And so I'm delighted that we were able to partner with the Latin American Cape for Asia Pacific Excellence, the Māori Language Commission, and the University of Auckland to co-host Professor Loncon's visit to New Zealand. Professor Loncon, as you know, is from a Mapuche community in southern Chile. She's a professor in intercultural education in the Department of Education at the University of Santiago in Chile, which is a university, I learned today, of about 40,000 students, but where Professor Loncon is the only academic who speaks the Mapuche language, Maputungun. And alongside her work as a renowned linguist and scholar, she's an activist for Indigenous rights and language rights. In 2021, Professor Loncon was elected as one of the representatives of the Mapuche people to the Chilean Constitutional Convention, and then was named the convention's first president. And the task of the convention was to rewrite the Chilean Constitution. And this was triggered by mass protests in 2019 and a subsequent national vote to rewrite the Constitution. The new Constitution would have been transformational, guaranteeing a wider range of social rights, gender parity, environmental protections, and critically, recognizing Chile as a plurinational state, acknowledging the rights of the country's indigenous communities and addressing environmental protections. Would have been because the revised constitution was rejected by Chilean voters, as was the subsequent rewrite. In this evening's lecture, Professor Loncon will discuss her experiences in these constitutional processes and the social and political movements as an Indigenous woman, an academic, and an Indigenous rights activist. Please join me in welcoming Professor Loncon.
Mari Lamien, Mari Pudomo, Mari Puwentu, Chilcatufe, Kimeltu Chefe, Mari Tani Puche, tu luta ni Mapu, Chile Mapu, ka tu luta tufata Rapanui Guapiche Café, y orana Pia Yuñaña. Buenas noches ya para mis compatriotas chilenos y kia ora for my brothers and sisters from New Zealand. I'm very happy to stay here. I want to thanks to the Victoria University of Wellington, also to Latin American Center for Asia and Pacific Excellence. Also, I present my respect to Maori brothers and sisters, elders, women, and all of your ancestors. I also say thanks to Mother Earth and all the spirit to help us to stay together today here in this university. They are students and they are professors. I come from Chile, a country inhabited by diversity of Aboriginal people and nation, but their existence has been systematically denied by internal colonialism from the Chilean state. My community of origin is called Lefueluan, and it is located in the province of Malleco in the Mapuche territory, called Walmapu. As Mapuche from the 20th century, I was educated in two systems, the traditional Mapuche system itself and the Chilean school. This condition has allowed me to focus from my intercultural perspective on defining the right of indigenous people, mainly the right to language and intercultural education, because I believe that indigenous people can continue to be indigenous people with our language, philosophy, exercising our rights, being part of a plural society, exercising autonomy, living in our territory. You see in the picture, in the middle, there is my grandma. In my region, we, as women, we use this hat, the silver hat, and my hat jewel is connected with the power of the moon. That was during land recuperation in 1967. In Chile, we, the Mapuche, live in Chile and in Argentina. Most of us share the same language, the same philosophy, the same struggle. In 2021, I was elected as the first president of the Constitutional Convention, which sought to change the Pinochet constitution written during the dictatorship and marked by a neoliberal ideology bias, which does not protect social rights, nor does it recognize or respect the right of indigenous people. Unfortunately, the drafted constitutional proposal was rejected by the Chilean population. Now, I will talk about an inclusive democratic constituent process from Chilean that wrote a constitutional proposal and defend Chile as Chile is a social and democratic state of law. It is plurinational, intercultural, regional, and ecological. We in Chile, the Aboriginal nation, we are the Aymara, Quechua, Coya, Licanantay, Chango from the north, Rapa Nui people in Easter Island, Diayita, Mapuche, Selknam, Yagan, and Kewashkar. Not all of those nations have their Aboriginal languages. We have living language like Aymara, Quechua, Rapa Nui, and Mapudungun. We have extremely rich the Selknam language, Yagan and Kewashkar. But also we have people that lost their language like Licanantay, Coya, and Diayita. It's very difficult for them. Like for instance, from Licanantay, they lost the grammar. They keep some words, but without grammar, it's difficult to recover the language. So according to the last census in 2017, we were more than 2 million of indigenous people, and the Mapuche is the majority group, near the 90% of indigenous. The Mapuche, keep our language, the 10% of us. Most of us adult people, because children they have the Spanish as a first language. So in October 2019, millions of people took to the street to demand political and social changes, and the government has to find institutional solution. In November 2019, the parliament agreed to call to referendum to consult the people to change the constitution. In the referendum, won the option to approve a new constitution with 80%, and that is be written by democratically elected people. Then, on July 4, 2021, convention was settled and formed with 17 reserved seats for indigenous people with parity, and it was also led by a Mapuche woman. Among the historical principles that inspired the Chilean constitutional throughout the history is the definition of a unique and indivisible state, where the unique is interpreted as monolithic, uniform, monocultural, which excluded differences and with supreme respect to the economic classes that run the country. This version of the state excluded the indigenous people and their rights, excluding the low-income social sectors, the right of women, and all the minority. Before to the social outbreak, the situation of violence that affected the Mapuche people generated some solidarity on the part of the Chilean social movement. There were continuing complaints about the injustice to which the Mapuche community in the south were being subjected. This also implied a greater knowledge of indigenous demands because there was a public interest in knowing the history and reality that affected the Mapuche. Forum, meetings, seminars, cultural events, and a lot of dissemination of the Mapuche struggle were held. The community has been the object of repression, which ended the life of Camilo Catrillanca in Temucuicui in 2018, and continue acts of violence caused by different agents, forestry, business such as the burning of truck to collect insurance, thief of good, and all were attributed to the Mapuche people. Far from resolving the situation, the government militarized the Mapuche territory, attributing the acts of violence to the Mapuche. But Chilean people support the Mapuche struggle in solidarity. During the massive mobilization of 2019, the Mapuche flag became a symbol for Chilean people to fight for a more just society. However, on the ground in Mapuche territory, the government continued to enact repressive measures based on Pinochet constitutional anti-terrorist policy, which persists in the community to this day. So, what plurinationality means in the Chilean context? Plurinationality refers to the coexistence of multiple nations within a single state. The Chilean people and the aboriginal nations, Saimara, Quechua, Coya, Chango, Licanantay, Rapa Nui, Diaguita, Mapuche, Selknam, Yagan, Cahuascar, Afro-descendants, it's involved recognizing the collective rights of indigenous people, such as the right to self-determination, autonomy, and self-government, as well as the protection of their lands, territories, natural resources, language, and knowledge. Plurinationality is a way to be democratic in a pluricultural and plurilingual society. It's a world where many worlds can live together and everyone take care of Mother Earth. So the proposal also envisioned the development of indigenous territorial autonomy where communities could exercise self-government and apply their own norm and justice system. Indigenous people were to have the opportunity to develop and manage their own institutions in areas such as education, health, justice, respecting their practice and worldview, to ensure that indigenous communities were consulted freely and informed on any decision or project affecting their rights and territory. Mechanisms were established in line with international standards of ILO Convention. In terms of historical justice, provisions were included to address the restitution of ancestral lands and territories to indigenous communities as a measure of historical justice. The new constitution recognized and protected the language, culture, the heritage of indigenous people, promoting their preservation and appreciation within the national context. It also proposed an educational model that included the teaching of indigenous language and culture, fostering the intercultural education that respect and value the country's cultural diversity. So why the Chileans reject the constitutional proposal? In July 2022, we finished the constitutional proposal. However, the proposed constitution was rejected by the majority of the Chileans in the referendum in September 4, 2022. They rejected for different reasons, and some had nothing to do with the text. To reject the management of President Gabriel Boric, for instance, there was a communicational campaign of fear and lies against the proposal. Plurinationality will divide the country. The indigenous will have more privilege than Chilean, they said. They will have two systems of justice, they said. But that was not true. We will not have rights to our own house, they said. Also, there were internal and external errors. There were some conventional that didn't respect the protocol in the assembly, for instance. Also, political parties didn't support the constitutional convention. They voted divided. Also, the indigenous people voted divided. The right wing used the discourse of Mapuche as terrorist and incorporated into the rejection campaign. It capitalized on the racist population and fostered anti-plurinational sentiment. They used rejection slogans such as Chile's only one and we want peace, were direct reference to the Mapuche struggle for autonomy and the riots in Araucanía, the Mapuche territory. The role of media was essential for the rejection. The power of media in Chile is conservative and neoliberal. They play an important role in the refusal campaign defending political exclusive model. There are two media conglomerates, El Mercurio Group and Copesa Group, both of which own the 90% of Chilean prime media. They are owner all of the paper and also the TV program. Understanding the rejection on plurinationality in Chile. The proposal for plurinationality in Chile did not advance due to the myriad of complex and multifaceted reasons. The key among this was a strong political and ideological opposition from conservative and some center-right sectors. Additionally, consensus was not challenging to achieve within the Constitutional Convention and in the public debate. Prejudice and lack of understanding toward the indigenous culture and rights contributed to resistance against the idea of plurinational state. One point is the colonial fact. The colonial fact refers to the conquest, genocide, dispossession, and occupation of indigenous territory by colonizer. It formed the basis for forces evangelization, the enslavement of our ancestors, and the enforced civilization through an educational system that deny our indigenous ontology. It represents the universal imposition of Eurocentrism and patriarchy, anthropocentrism, the relentless pursuits of wealth, capital, and the concept of progress against Mother Earth. The colonial fact explains the subjection of the process of civilization imposed by colonial conquest. It accounts for the military violence of army and religion inquisitions. The notion of progress elaborated by Eurocentric ideology and criticized as a myth, hide a genocide, it said Dussel. Moreover, the ideology of progress as something necessary and inevitable has been criticized by Silvia Federici for justifying the genocide of women through the Inquisition. From my perspective, it has also justified the genocide of our people and ancestors and the destruction of our ontology and practice of respect and reciprocity with nature. Second point, the racism. The Chilean elite that governs the country is a racist, and therefore the state is racist. It has law, structures, and institutions where indigenous people do not participate. Why is this the case? I refer to the Michael Foucault, and he said the primary function of racism is the fragment and introduced division in the biological continuum which is biopolar invests inside the society. The second function of racism is to establish a positive relationship, like the more you kill, more die, or let die, the more. In consequence, you will live. That is from Foucault theory. Ramon Grossfogel also explained the racism in our continent, and he said that he used the Fanon perspective, Frank Fanon perspective, and described the social division into zones. There are a zone of being and zone of non-being. In the zone of being, people have rights. In zone of non-being, people are not recognized as human. In that place, there are the indigenous, Afro, and Poo people. So then the Eurocentrism. Eurocentrism is present in both liberal and progressive politics and ideology, meaning it applies to both the left and the right. Dussel has pointed out that the ideology of development has ontological roots in Germany with Hegel, which then passed to the Marx, and from him to Marxism and real socialism, permitting school and university worldwide. Most of the academic thought come from Europe, from 5 countries, Germany, Italy, England, France, and part of the United States. So the Eurocentrism is governing the academy in our country. Then we have the economic neoliberalism and neoliberal democracy. The neoliberal democracy does not accommodate difference. This political and economic model inherently favors a homogenized society, often at the expenses of marginalized groups, including indigenous groups. The neoliberal focus on individualism and market-driven policies can overlook and undermine collective rights and identity, particularly those of indigenous community. There was insufficient, the right-wing party misinformed and lied about plurinationality. I told you what they said, but there was this insufficient education and awareness about rights and the impact of disinformation on public opinion. The rejection of the proposal was not reflected resistance to plurinationality. The rejection of the proposal not only reflected resistance to plurinationality, but also to other aspects of the constitutional text. Many citizens were more focused on immediately issue, like the economic and the security rather than the proposed structural reform. In summary, the rejection occurred due to the combination of objective issues, internal error within the convention, and political resistance from the right to plurinationality. The right also control the media, leading a fear-based campaign. So colonial violence was manifested through various axes of power. Class axis, domination exploited classes; racist axis, dominating and enslaving race and ethnicity; patriarchal axis, domination of women; anthropocentric axis, domination of nature and the human protector of nature. So, as you know, the state of Chile, like other countries on the continent, was formed through the process of independence starting in the early 19th century. It was built upon the juridical, political, administrative system of the Spanish monarchy, a colonial empire imposed since 1492. Moreover, it adopted new juridical, political, economical, and cultural values from Europe and from French Revolution, including the vision of unilinear progress and development that justified the genocide and the position of non-European peoples, such as in the America and Africa. This was considered a necessary and inevitable cause, as noted by Enrique Dussel. There are some achievements. For us, the process was also important in spite of we lost the referendum. We feel that we win something. For instance, the discussion about reserved seats for indigenous representatives, because we don't join the political parties because we have our own organization, and so we are in a we don't have the same power of the Chilean political party. So need a special seat to establish inside the parliament. Also, we win in visibility of the indigenous demands. The process brought the indigenous demand into the public eyes because all the Chilean and in every part of the world, they saw us that we are working within all the Chilean people. So there was the visibility of our demand. Also, there was a symbolic recognition of the indigenous and our demands. Direct participation of the people in the discussion. We contribute to the text of the Constitution, and we speak about recognition of plurinationality, and we speak about the cultural right of indigenous people. For future challenge, the main challenge now is to build on these achievements, facing resistance and working toward an inclusive democracy that embraces diversity and pluralism. These include effectively implementing the plurinational state that recognizes and respects Chilean culture and political diversity. Indigenous, it is good to explain you what does it mean for us, the indigenous ontology, because it's connected with the plurinationality. We need the plurinationality because we want to continue to be indigenous people, but to continue on living as indigenous, we need to keep our way of thinking, to keep our philosophy, to keep our practice. So the struggle of indigenous people is framed with the colonial context that positions their history from their worldview and philosophy. This struggle is both ontological, political, philosophical. It seeks the substantial contribution of civilization and wisdom to restore the rights of nature and social rights. We are not again those disposed or dehumanized by the capitalist system, but aims to force alliance with the poor, with Afro-American, Afro people and women. Thus, it is a struggle for intercultural relationship and against the domination of people and the nature. The colonizer imposed their Eurocentric philosophy, their religion, spirituality, and knowledge, a singular worldview. This came from the universal vision of the world created in the 19th century Eurocentristic philosophy and social science. It presented one world, unique and universal. Yet here there was a diversity of worlds, thoughts, practice, different language, expressed in different ontologies and philosophy of the South. The universal vision of the world denied our world, but today, after century, our worlds are the content of critical thought, which posits the existence of multiple worlds. We observe this is the political ontology of Arturo Escobar, Mario Blese, Marisol de la Cadena, among others. There is no universe but a pluriverse. There is not just one Western ontology, but other ontology. This helps us build a new present and a possible future, for which it makes sense to unite our efforts to change the course of civilization that assaults the power and wealth by destroying the Mother Earth. I show you what the philosophy for us means. We have the philosophy of Azmapu, as you see in the center. Azmapu means, Mapu is the land, and Az is the figure, and also it's an adjective that is beautiful, like a beautiful land. And it has 4 pillars. One is Asmonien, referred to knowledge. The 2, Normonien, refer to rules that we have to be in community and also in relationship with nature. And we have Itofilmonien that recognize that everything that is in the world is alive, human, not human, and also is spiritual life. All we are together and we are alive. So we recognize also that is very important. One pillar of the Mapuche philosophy is the Itofilmonien. It refers to ontology of the Mapu is plenty of life. When we say Mapu is plenty of life, we refer also recognize the cosmos, because we recognize that the world has 4 parts. The sky is part of our world. Then the space is also part of our world. And then the land where we live and where is underground is other part of the world. Everything, sky, ocean, air, all is part of this Itofilmonien. So we recognize the cosmos, the sun, the moon, star. They are alive and they are living with us. We recognize spiritual life. That's mean to recognize that everything that is in the world have a spirit, including the spirit of river, spirit of wind, spirit of the animals, and spirit of the star, the spirit of our ancestor. as we recognize the human, women, men, and sexual diversity, we call them two-spirit people, epurume spirit, puli. And also non-human beings, as you see, different forces or different spirit of the land and territory, inside the territory, our family, our community, our organization, our ceremony, all of our institution. We believe that we need a dialogue between differences. There are different world knowledge to live together. We recognize that our ancestors fought against the colonialism, the colonial facts, and also our ancestors were not mistaken doing that. We came in the same name of progress. What came in the name of progress was the destruction. It wasn't the progress, the future for our people. They knew that if we were stripped of our ontology of life, our ontology of Itofilmonien, it could bring harm and evil to Mother Earth. So we need to continue, but today all together, we must protect the lands, not only the indigenous people, but white, yellow people, all of us. So as conclusion, I want to say that the constitutional proposal opened a great horizon for a plurinational Chile, equal with social rights and with rights of nature. These were the dream of those who were not and have not been in power. It had a 38% support, which is not minor. This is a great social base to continue a political project with solidarity and social justice. The Chilean struggle is not against people, not against men, not against women. It's against the dehumanized and economic model that destroy communities, destroy Trofilmonien, destroy our nature. So we need to defend Mother Earth together. In our ontology, the Itofilmonien, everything is alive, everything is interconnected, and all beings participate in the fabric of life. Human and non-human ensure that this bond is not broken, including the spirit of ancestor and land spirit from mountain, from river, from start. Plurinationality aimed for the coexistence of distinct people who did not give up their philosophies, tradition, or language, but rather proposed a framework for plural coexistence, exercising the rights of people now recognized at the international level. So we need a deep decolonization process inside the Chilean movement to build a new society. We need to decolonize the state, the progressive political parties, the social movement, ecologists, women, diversity, also decolonize indigenous people who have abandoned their roots, language, histories. We need education and awareness for people, the need for information campaign about social rights, the right of people and nature, because we understand that they were object of misinformation, but because they don't have the real information. Recognition and implementation of autonomy and self-government in our community, and strengthening indigenous institutions, promoting recognition and respect for indigenous practice, language, and culture. One of our weak position as indigenous is that we don't have institution. We are, every community are free. What we don't have connection, coordination, a coordinated movement. So we need an institution that coordinates us for the next process, for next time. So we have rights, and within those rights we can continue developing our administrative frameworks. But it's our dream because we need a political power inside the parliament. Today the parliament is a white parliament, and we don't have reserved seat inside the parliament. So I believe that maybe we need 2 decades or 3 decades to prepare the generation according with our rights to be proud to be indigenous. But it's a process, a social process. That's all that I want to share with you. I hope you understand my exposition. So if you have some question, I will answer the question. Thank you so much. Shaltu mai tulamne.
Hi, Elisa. I'm Susana from Chile, too. I was wondering, because I live in Australia and in New Zealand, so I have a bit of the 3 parts of the war and how colonization have almost erased all indigenous cultures and indigenous people, and how they have been traumatized, all these cultures. For me, was so heartbroken to see. I live in Melbourne over there, and it was so heartbroken to see that indigenous people only live on the street under drugs or under alcohol, which is similar to what I can see here in Wellington. I live in the countryside, in the South Island here. I didn't see that so much. And in Chile, back in Chile, I remembered that when I was working in high-class society, it was bad looking that I have the color of the skin that I have and the color of the hair that I have. So in that context, what we can do, we are so many in the world. Maybe we are not that many in our communities, I mean in Chile, in New Zealand, in Australia. But if with this globalized world, we unify our strength, maybe we can do something, and we can be part of this world with the rights that others have. I don't know if it does make sense, and you share these thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. Because in our also we think about our future, and as indigenous Aboriginal nation, and as I told you, I grew up with a traditional school from my family and from my community with different history. We have different history. There is no just one history, and we have the rights to tell our own history. So everyone, all of you, you have your history. There is no just one history. So we can start it as telling to our people what is our history. The history of women, for instance. There is no name of women inside the history of Chile. The Chilean history include only men, and they erased the name of indigenous women. So, but we are alive, and we are not outside of the process. We are inside the process. So I think that we need to speak. We need to incorporate our way of thinking in the discussion. So the decolonization process, I know that violence, drugs, alcohol is a way of violence that they use in order to stop our struggle. But we have our own history and the struggle of our ancestor. We need to see that struggle because it is alive. It's go with us. So I think that we need a time. We need a opportunity to work with young generation, we work with women, and to see that it's possible to live in different world. And it is possible to share different knowledge because there is no one universal knowledge. Even though the science is not one knowledge, most of the knowledge inside the science belong to the Aboriginal nation people. We also produce knowledge. So in this case, it's important to have interculturality, intercultural dialogue inside meeting, inside the academy, in everywhere. And all of us have the possibility to include the knowledge inside that discussion.
There is another question here.
Sorry, Jorge. Yeah. Doctor Elisa, muchas gracias por su presentación. Thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Ana Maria Rojas, and I come from Coyhaique, from Aysén region, from Patagonia, but I am from Colombia, but I have been working in Coyhaique for the last 10 years, and I'm here doing a PhD in museum studies at the university. So my question is related to museums and to cultural institutions in Chile. And museums currently play a very important role in forging intercultural relationships, and particularly in isolated territories like Aysén, which you know very well. So I would like to ask you, and I would like to hear your thoughts about what do you think would be the role of cultural institutions in Chile, but especially of Chilean museums and those that are community-based, those that are located in Patagonia or in the north of Chile, in narrating and representing this crucial moment of transformation in Chilean society, and how could our museums, for example, the museums in Aysén, contribute to that inclusive society that you have been talking about and that is stated in the constitutional proposal, and how museums could prepare those new generations to lead those processes in the future. Yeah, thank you very much. Gracias.
Yeah, talk about museum is really difficult for us, like indigenous people, because when you go to the museum, you see my jewel inside the museum. But for us, we still keep it, and we need it. It's necessary because it includes the other power of the nature that go with us. My dressing is not colonial dressing, you know? So if we need to decolonize ourselves, we need our dressing. Not the moda from New York, not from Europe. We can prepare our clothes. So when I was the president of convention, there was the possibility of repatriation of some object from museum from United States. And I was really dreaming to have a communitarian place, a communitarian cultural institution where we can put something important for our community. Even my hat, this hat, because it's very old, maybe have more than 100 years, from my grandma and grandma, you know? And in one conversation I want to change the because it's very old, but it's very difficult to modify because it belongs to a history. And people saw me with this. Maybe if in the future I will die and somebody will take my hat, you know, but is continuing in our alive process. So we need museum, indigenous, but we need to control our museum, to decide what kind of object we will put inside and what kind of object we will still use it alive. Because today the theoretical orientation of museum belong to white people. They put the head of our leader inside the museum. That happened in Argentina. It's very hard in Argentina. They sign the head of the people because they said they are not intelligent, you know? It was very hard. So we need the body of our ancestor outside of the museum. Because we don't put white people inside the museum, you know? Why we do that for indigenous? It's hard for our life. It's a violence. So I imagine in the future we can have some people from our community to keep some object inside a special space, but controlled by us, by our people.
We have, Jorge, we've got some questions up there. They've been waiting for a while.
Yep.
Can we go there and then up there? Thank you.
I'm going to stand up. First of all, when you were voted in for the president of the Chilean Constitution, you gave us all tremendous hope. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, how was it for you? Because for us, we saw hope. We thought Chile is changing, you know, and we had tremendous hope. And so the Chileans outside of Chile were hopeful.
Yeah.
What was it like for you?
Yeah.
Because I don't think...
it was a historical movement for indigenous and also for the Chilean people and also for women. It was really beautiful. We always dream about that time, not me, also my ancestor. I listened to from my elders, they said, we are good to talk with all of other culture. So in the future, we will be together, taking the decision together. So it was really beautiful moment. We understand that it's possible to make change. We understand that people feel that we need a new relationship between each other. Common people, normal people, they feel that feeling, they have their feeling. Yeah, and I think that the feeling and the thinking is still with us. It's still inside the women. It's still inside the young people. Most, after the convention, I have a lot of conversation with young Chilean because I work with students inside the university, and for them is they need to talk with me, to talk with indigenous about the new future. So I think that it will be possible to make the change in the future.
Buenas noches y mil gracias de todo corazón por esta presentación. Thank you very much for this presentation and all the work that you have been doing that is very inspiring for people all over the world. My name is Antonio, I'm from Colombia, and I am an immigrant here, and I think many of the people that is here. And my question is related with immigrants and the discussion of immigrants in the Constitutional Assembly. I was a few weeks before the uprising in Chile, in Santiago, by Bio Bio, and I saw many immigrants from Colombia, from Venezuela, but mainly from IT. And they speak French, they speak another language, and it's a big community in Chile. So I was wondering how was the conversation and the dialogue about plurinationality in the context of the Constitutional Assembly in relation with these new communities? And from the indigenous perspective, what should be the constitutional approach? Thank you.
Yeah, today we have a big problem with migration inside of in our country because of it's not the violence is stronger. Unfortunately, on our experience, the Piñera president, in order to show his power to Colombia and Venezuela, to go against the president in Venezuela, he said, come here, Chile is open for migrants. And he gave the possibility of for the narco trafficked big group of narco traffickers inserted in Chile because of the policy of Piñera. What can I say? We have a poor country. We have a rich country in resource. Who control the resources? The people that control the economy and the policy. Neoliberal system. They are using our minerals, our water, our wind. And there is no social policy for us, nor for the migrants. We don't have free education. We don't have free water. And also immigrant people suffer the same condition. Unfortunately, the Piñera called the migrant and migrant people from some of the migrant people vote against the constitution too. Because they said with Chilezuela, they used the concept of Chilezuela. And they said Maduro is supporting manipulate the discourse. But the problem inside is that there is no policy for the migrant nor for the poor people inside my country. That depends on, we need to change, may change. When we wrote the Constitution, we respect the international law to establish the law for migrants in the Constitution. We respect what is going on internationally about the right of migrant, because there is a reference for us, but we were refused. So today is very difficult. There is no policy also for people from the people that speak French language. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just one more quick question, and then we'll go to Dr. Matthew Omar just for a quick summing up. So one last question, quick question. And if there isn't, no, just up there. Una que talla. Yep.
Hola, muchas gracias. Soy Isidora. I was born in Chile and I moved to New Zealand about 8 years ago. So I'm 21 years old and I'm studying at the university here. Both having studied in Chile and Temuco, in La Araucanía, and here in New Zealand, I have experienced colonization perspectives from both worlds. And something that I find extremely difficult is approaching conversations with love of people who feel intimidated by giving Indigenous people a voice. Same with other minority groups like women or immigrants. So I was wondering how you approach those situations and how you manage to navigate situations where you find a position without lowering your frequencies to violence, because I feel that sometimes when you get angry, it doesn't go anywhere. So my question, how you navigated that in a position of such, like everybody knew who you were, you know? Just how you did that.
Yeah, I think that the progress is a myth. There is no progress when the land is burned. There is no progress when we don't have water, for instance. When there is no housing, you can say that this is the progress. So I believe that the 21st century is our century for indigenous, for differences, for women. We need to be strong because the Eurocentrism is a very violent culture. Deny us for different centuries, denies the women, denies the indigenous, you know? And we have a peace culture. We have communitarian culture. We pray for nature and we believe in spirits. And we need that to be happy, to stay strong. I receive a lot of violence from white people against me, but I'm going strong and stronger because I believe that I am not alone. I am here with you, with your ancestor, and also I'm here with my ancestor, with the power of nature, with the power of sea. That is more beautiful way of thinking that we need to practice every day in order to be strong and fight against the oppression, fight against the world, fight against the violence. Yeah, we need to stay together. And we need to find in ourselves our freedom to recover our history, story also, our languages, our practice, our food, our clothing. We have a lot to do. Thank you so much.
Tumai, and many thanks. That was a great question.
Gracias, Craig. It's terrible when you're the one to keep people away from speaking to each other and having a drink, but Mari Nangyen. Chaltumai, many thank you, Elisa, for your wonderful presentation. I think we all learned a great deal tonight, or it touched many people's hearts, mine certainly. All the more impressive because at 4 o'clock this morning, you woke up and you were at a hautapu ceremony at Te Kura Kaupapa Māori o Ngā Mokopoda in Seatoon. So it's been a long day for you, but an inspiring talk nonetheless. In some ways, those of you who've seen the Cape for a while will think this isn't normally what we talk about. We don't normally have a talk as personal, as philosophical, and as political as the one we've just had tonight. And the reason for that is because we were originally created with quite instrumentalist objectives to encourage more business between New Zealand and Latin America, to put more Latin American content in our education system. And we've done that. However, it's also in other ways, your talk is extremely typical of what we've done, because really from our beginning 7 years ago, we've always believed that we needed to encourage more Kiwis, more New Zealanders, to understand the Indigenous connections between our two parts of the Pacific. We've done a lot of work in this area. Dilimilpa a la Mesa, an Indigenous food system project based around museums, to pick up one of the questions before. One of our staff members has went to World Indigenous Business Forum in Colombia. Another staff member from Waikato was worked for the United Nations to promote Indigenous work there. Craig himself has ensured that Indigenous themes have been central to our Winds of Change climate change program. So it's always been important to us. For me personally too, it was lovely to hear you talk about Enrique Dussel, because I hosted him once when I was studying liberation theology. And so to hear his work was personal to me too. I'm sure that many of us in the room tonight would have heard many resonances or felt many resonances between some of the points you were making and our own experience here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, especially the reasons why the Constitution was rejected. So you presented that, but you also were very optimistic because you said 38% of people is a big social base, and it is. So that's a true and encouraging way of reframing the issue. I think that by coming here, what you've done is you have helped forge alliances across the Pacific. So thank you for not going straight home from Australia, but through coming here. We've really appreciated that. I think that your presence here is really typical of one of our last acts as a Cape, which was to take New Zealand universities to Latin America to try and build university research links and people links. And so your presence here is an immediate fruit of our voyage. So thank you for responding to Margaret's invitation. And my final word is to thank everyone who came to listen tonight. The Cape is about to end, as some of you will be aware, and we're not happy about that, but life is life, you move on. And you take what you can and build as many legacies as you can. And I think that everyone who went on that delegation and the people that we met really see massive potential for the New Zealand and Latin American university systems to do great work together on research, on social justice themes, and on intercultural exchange. So in that sense, I thank you once more, and I challenge everyone in the room here, thank you for all coming tonight, but let's keep the conversation alive in whatever ambits that we can, and let's really build those links between the Indigenous communities of Aotearoa and Latin America and the university worlds of these societies. Muchas gracias. Gracias por venir.
Kia ora, Matthew, and we just also want to give you a wee present, a gift, un regalito, as a token of our enormous esteem, and thank you to you for coming here, but sharing so much. You know, you as a woman, as an academic, as a Mapuche woman, academic, activist. Also want to acknowledge, you said your grandma, your abuelita, is there as well. Francisca
Raiman Liencheo.
Presente, no? Presente. So to acknowledge, I'm sure that her work and struggle, but also yours.
She's one of my sisters. Oh. Yeah.
So you have your family, members of your family present.
I am there too.
So you're from a line of extremely strong women and people. But thank you. And I have to say, Merichiweo. And kia kaha, like 1000 veces, 10 veces.
Someone fell down, 10 we stand up. Yeah, 10 is forever.
So thank you, and a strong round of applause for Elisa. Taltuma.